3 o'clock in the afternoon on May 13th, 2013, the tornado formed southwest of Oklahoma City. The tornado ultimately reached EF5 intensity with wind speeds of 200 or so miles per hour. It was on the ground for 39 minutes and caused over $2 billion in damage. The tornado caused 24 fatalities, including 7 at the Plaza Towers Elementary School.
My name is Sherry Biddle. I am a teacher at Southwest Covenant Schools in Yukon, and formerly I was a teacher in Moore at Briarwood Elementary. Well, it was the last week of school. It was a Monday and we got out of school on Friday, so just going through all the end of school motions. And then they started sending messages that, hey, we're watching the weather and we may have to take tornado precautions. And then people started text messaging me, my family, my husband, my mom. I never really felt like that it was coming until at the very, very end. We were in the corner of the room, and then you could hear it. And then the roof blew off, and the walls came down all around us, and just hearing the kids screaming and hearing the sound of the tornado, that's the biggest memory that will stay with me forever.
So the wind speeds in this tornado were estimated to be at least 200 miles per hour when the tornado was over those 2 schools. The normal design speed that we would use for buildings in that area would be more like in 110 or 115 miles per hour. So the loads on the building were probably 5 or 6 times greater than what the building was designed for based on what was in the current code requirement.
Growing up, every time in school, you'd go out into the hall and you'd get your tornado precautions. If you were at home, the house I grew up in, we didn't have a storm shelter and we had bad weather all the time. We got in the closet that was in the innermost part of our house and we put a twin-size mattress over us, and it's just what you did. It's what you did until you realize that that's not gonna work if you ever get hit by a tornado. It's a horrible way to learn the hard way, a lesson like that, when it's something that's life-threatening. In the years after the tornado, we had these humongous totes in our classrooms that the PTA for our school district had raised all kinds of money so that every student in your classroom had a bicycle helmet. And then we also had lanyards, and the lanyard had a picture and all of the identifying things. And those first few years after the tornado, doing tornado drills was very, very hard for me. Like, you hand out a lanyard to a kid that you know that's there in case their body has to be identified. You put a helmet on them thinking, well, a helmet's better than nothing, and we have nothing, so here you go.
Beginning with the 2015 edition of the International Building Code, there are actually requirements for inclusion of storm shelters in schools and in emergency responder facilities. We'll say that in 25 years or so, and the number of many thousands of storm shelters and safe rooms have been constructed to date, there's not been a single documented failure of a storm shelter or safe room that's been designed or constructed to either the FEMA criteria or for safe rooms or the ICC 500 criteria for storm shelters. So one of the things that Moore did, the city of Moore did following the 2013 tornado, and they had so much damage to their homes and residences, they developed and adopted their own tornado requirements for their residential code. So they have, in many cases, you'll design a building much more like you design on the hurricane coast for higher wind speeds. So that is available, and other communities could look at that and think about being proactive and adopting those tornado requirements similar to what were done in Moore, Oklahoma. With the publication of the ASCE 722 standard, which ASCE is American Society of Civil Engineers, and this standard is called Minimum Design Loads and Associated Criteria for Buildings and Other Structures. This standard governs how do you determine the loads from all of the different hazards and how those apply to the buildings. Now the next step is then states and cities and counties have to start adopting that new document once it's come out.
Now, though, I'm at a school that has a safe room, and it's 4 classrooms, and the whole school can fit in those four classrooms. And so if that happening to me and my response to that doesn't help people down the road, then there's just no learning from, that's how most of our life lessons are. Like, you take what experience you have and you try to help the people that are gonna walk down that road. We're always going to have tornadoes in Oklahoma. We're always going to have these emergency type situations. And so that's what giving testimony is, just for people to see real life and for people to see that it can happen to them and to be prepared and how they can help other people.
So the most important thing communities can do is to adopt the latest edition of the building code. Local communities need to work with the residents to make sure that they have awareness of what the hazards are associated with tornadoes, and to make sure that local residents have a plan and understand what their options are.
It happens. It's going to happen again. So being prepared in your home is just as important as being prepared at your workplace. And because I work at a school that has a safe room, I don't worry as much. You think about all the tragedies that happen that you think that will never happen to you, but if you think about that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's mom, that's somebody's child that's gone through that could happen to you. And it doesn't matter if it's a traumatic event or a natural disaster or anything like that. Talking about it and helping somebody else is one of the best ways to heal.